is potentially paralyzing the grouping because of the divide between Russia and the West? And my second question, what was your meeting with the Chinese Foreign Minister?
The first question has already been asked. I'll take that as second one. Sir, to you.
Okay. In a sense, the first three questions cover a very similar area, so I'm really clubbing it together. I'll ignore your first question because you're allowed only one. So I'll take the China question. I tried to, the picture which I was sharing with you was the G20 delegations, the members, the negotiators, the ministers. We met, we discussed, the officials also obviously negotiated. Now, there were a very large number of issues on which there was agreement. And in fact, if you look at, the detailed picture that I have presented to you, there was agreement on various aspects of strengthening multilateralism, on promoting food and energy security, on climate change, climate action, ensuring biodiversity, on gender issues, on global health, on counter-terrorism, on new emerging technologies, counter-narcotics, how do we go about with development cooperation. So there are, I would say, I don't want to put a percentage on it because that's not a fair way of depicting, a collection of issues. But do appreciate that on the bulk of the issues which concern especially the global south, the developing countries, there was a considerable meeting of minds, and a considerable meeting of minds which has been captured by the outcome document. Now, the question, why was, did we fall short of expectations? Why is it called what it is? If we had had a perfect meeting of minds on all issues and captured it fully, then obviously it would have been a collective statement. But there were issues, and I think the issues, I would say very frankly, concerned the Ukraine conflict, on which there were divergences. So on the bulk of the issues, we were able to get an outcome document. There was a chair summary because there were differences on the Ukraine issue, which we could not reconcile between various parties who held differing positions. Now, is the conflict impacting the global south? Of course it is. It's not something new. In fact, India has been saying this very strongly for pretty much close to a year, that this is affecting. In fact, today in my own session, I actually used the word saying for much of the global south, this is a make or break issue. That the costs of fuel, the cost of food, the cost of fertilizer, the availability of fertilizer, which means next year's food, these are all extremely pressing issues. And if you see some of the countries who were already struggling with debt, who were already impacted by the pandemic, for them, this conflict, the knock-on effects of this conflict coming on top of that has been really, damaging is a very, very mild word. So it is a matter of very, very deep concern for us, which is why we have kept the focus in this meeting very much on the concerns of the global south. We feel these are the most vulnerable countries. It's not realistic, it's not credible to talk about the future of the global economy and the multilateral order if we are not able to really address and focus on the issues of those who are most in need. So that's been broadly the approach. So just to sum up, I would say in terms of the outcome document, which we will be putting out very, very shortly, you will see that, the bulk, there is, almost, I would say, 95% in terms of paragraph agreement. And it is just on 2 paragraphs that we were not able to get everybody on the same page or same para, as you might call it. On the China meeting, I met Minister Chingang on the sidelines of the conference this afternoon. It's our first meeting after he took over as foreign minister. So we spent, I don't know, maybe about 45 minutes talking to each other. And the bulk of our conversation, understandably, was about the current state of our relationship, which many of you have heard me describe as abnormal. And I think those were among the adjectives that I used in that meeting. We have, there are real problems in that relationship that need to be looked at, that need to be discussed very openly and candidly between us. That's what we sought to do today. We also had a brief discussion on what was happening in the G20 framework, but the thrust of the meeting was really on our bilateral relationship and the challenges in the bilateral relationship, especially that of peace and tranquility in the border areas.
Sorry, let me take another round of questions, if you have, sir.
Yeah, one more round.
Okay. There, yes, please. No, there, please.
Dr. Jaishankar, Mujib Mashal from the New York Times. Although the statement may have fallen short, as you said, because of divergent opinions, in the context of the role that India could play to bring the sides together on the Ukraine war, there are reports that Secretary Blinken and Sergei Lavrov may have met on the sidelines of G20. Are these the kind of positive efforts that did happen, and India facilitate conversations like that to bridge the gap? Would you confirm that?
One second. Akhilesh, go ahead. Akhilesh, yeah, microphone.
Sir, I'm Akhilesh Suman from Sunset TV. You told about global skill mapping and related issue. What do you mean by that, and how it was discussed, and what is the outcome on this?
I had one question. Sorry, yeah, please, yeah. Yes, sir. No, not you, behind you.
Good afternoon. I'm Emerson Lim from Central News Agency of Taiwan. As most countries are focusing on Russia-Ukraine conflict, Taiwan Strait is also another flash point in this region. So, is the Taiwan Strait issue discussed during the meeting, and is the G20 ministers, or at least the Quad ministers, taking steps to prevent the tensions from escalating? Thank you.
Thank you.
One more.
Neeraj, last one.
सर, नीरज हूं न्यूज 18 इंडिया से। हमारा सवाल यह है कि अभी 2 बैठकें हुई G20 वित्त मंत्रियों की और विदेश मंत्रियों की बैठक में कोई ज्वाइंट स्टेटमेंट नहीं आ पाया। बाली घोषणा पत्र में भारत की भूमिका अहम थी। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी के शब्दों को इस्तेमाल किया गया और भारत की कोशिश से वो हो सका था कि बाली डिक्लेरेशन जारी हो सका। अब आने वाले महीनों में क्या कोशिश होगी कि समिट में एक ज्वाइंट डिक्लेरेशन आ सके, सभी लोगों के बीच यूक्रेन मसले पर सहमति बन सके?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Look, I wouldn't put it the way you put it, that the statement fell short. I mean, there are in diplomacy occasions when you are able to get 20 countries to agree on everything. There are occasions when you don't. So, for me, the primary objective of this meeting and of our presidency was really to highlight what were the key problems facing the global economy, especially the problems faced by the more vulnerable economies of the world. Now, if you, as I said, and when you look at the outcome document, you will see this for yourself. The bulk of the issues which are concerning developing countries, I think they were very satisfactorily addressed. I mean, it's not like we can give instantaneous solutions, but I think the thinking, the policy prescriptions, the commitments, the mindset were all absolutely in the right direction. So, yes, on one particular issue, because of very polarized views of some countries, we were not able to bridge it on this particular occasion. Whereas, as our colleague pointed out from there, we were able to do that. A number of us were able to do that collectively in Bali. But obviously, the Bali situation today for whatever reason, some countries feel cannot be extrapolated. So I would urge you really to look on the fact that substantively on the key development issues, issues of debt, issues of finance, issues of food, issues of fuel, issues of health, issues of climate. In fact, this meeting was able to get everybody around the table. And as I said, this is no easy task given the state of polarization in the world. On your question about global skills mapping, essentially today there is a demand, there is a growing demand in the developed world for skills and talents. There is a growing availability, but they are not necessarily in the developed world. Much of that availability is in the developing world. So how do you match the demand and supply for the benefit of the global economy? That is the really crucial issue. For a country like India, which has significant human resources, and which fortunately now has a government which pays attention to the development of those human resources, which actually focuses on skills and talent and innovation and education. This is an opportunity for us. So especially in the last 9 years, we have also been looking at what are called mobility and migration partnership, which allow for legal mobility, which ensure that talent and skills which go out get the same treatment in those particular geographies as their own citizens, and which ensure that all of this is legal and free of any sort of illegal activities. Now, it's not just India. I'm citing India because we are among the countries where, very active in this. But there are other countries as well. So this is widely recognized. In fact, in today's intervention, I'm not, I think the etiquette is that you don't specifically say what individual ministers said. But I can tell you that some of the relevant international organizations and some of the other ministers there spoke at some length about the importance of how do you ensure smooth mobility, how do you ensure protected mobility, legal mobility, because this is today one of the big issues before the international economy. On the Taiwan Straits issue, I think the answer is very simple. No, the matter was not discussed today. जो आपका जो सवाल है कि बाली में हम लोग जो हैं उस समय माने हमारे कारण ही नहीं, हम सब मिलके, हमारा योगदान तो था जरूर उसमें कि हम लोग उस समय वहाँ सहमति बना पाए. अब क्या हुआ है कि बाली के बाद अभी जो है दुनिया में काफ़ी कुछ घटनाएं हुई हैं. अब जो G20 के सदस्य जो हैं, जो इस मुद्दे के साथ जो जुड़े हुए हैं, उनके इस मामले में अलग अलग विचार हैं. और हम जो हैं इस बार उनके विचार माने उनके बीच में इतना गैप था कि हम लोगों ने प्रयास तो की, पर प्रयास के बावजूद हम जो है इस समय सहमति बना नहीं पाए. तो आप देखेंगे कि जैसे हमने बेंगलोर में किया था वैसे ही जो बाली में जो तय हुआ है उसी को हमने दोहराया है. और हमारी जो सोच है कि G20 के ज़्यादा सदस्य जो हैं वो अभी भी बाली के जो आउटकम जो था उसके साथ वो जुड़े हुए हैं. So essentially he asked me saying, that why were you not able to carry forward what happened in Bali, and I explained that given the state of polarization, given presumably developments which have happened since then, we found that positions were very far apart, and we tried very hard. We were not the only country who tried. The G20 works very, very collectively, but we were not able to bridge the gap. But I want to conclude by highlighting one very important point. In the past, for quite a few years now, G20 foreign ministers have met. This is the first time that the G20 foreign ministers have produced an outcome document. The outcome document, I think, reflects consensus and cooperation and collaboration on a very vast number of issues that are particularly important today for the international community, for the global south. So very frankly, I think it's a good day's work that we have done, and I'm very happy to share it with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you also, Foreign Secretary, sir, and Su Sherpa Abhay. Thank you all for joining us today. Good evening.